The settlement alarms shrieked across the colony as the dragon descended from the ash-gray sky. Ava dropped her plasma welder and sprinted toward the agricultural dome, her heart hammering against her ribs. 3 years on Kepler, 442b, and they'd never seen one of the native apex predators venture this close to human territory. The creature was massive, 30 meters of obsidian scales and membrane wings that blotted out the distant red sun. It landed with earth-shaking force just outside the dome's transparent aluminum walls, and Ava could see the colonists inside scrambling for emergency exits. "Aiden, get to the bunker," she shouted into her comm, thinking of her younger brother somewhere in the residential sector. "I'm already at the dome perimeter," his voice crackled back. "Ava, something's wrong. It's not attacking." She skidded to a halt beside him moments later, breathing hard. Aiden stood perfectly still, his agricultural scanner hanging loose in one hand, staring at the dragon with an expression she couldn't quite read. The dragon's golden eyes, each the size of a hover cart, fixed on the rows of gene-modified wheat growing inside the dome. But it made no move to breach the structure. Instead, it lowered its massive head and released a sound that Ava had never heard before. Not a roar, not a hiss, not a whimper. "By the stars," Aiden whispered. "It's begging." Ava's training screamed at her to evacuate, to activate the defensive grid, to do anything except stand here analyzing a creature that could incinerate them with a single breath. But Aiden was right. The dragon's body language, the folded wings, the lowered head, the way it kept glancing back toward the mountains, spoke of desperation, not aggression. "There." Aiden pointed to a rocky outcropping 200 meters away. Ava squinted and saw it. A smaller shape, perhaps 5 meters long, with scales that hadn't yet darkened to their adult coloration. The baby dragon lay motionless, its flanks barely moving. "It's starving," Ava breathed. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The volcanic eruption 3 months ago had decimated the native megafauna populations. The prey species these dragons hunted were gone, and this mother was watching her child die. "Ava, no." Aiden grabbed her arm as she took a step forward. "Command protocol says." Command protocol was written by people who've never looked into the eyes of a mother losing her child. She gently pulled free, human or not. The defense coordinator's voice barked through the settlement-wide comm, "Lethal countermeasures authorized in 30 seconds. All personnel clear the area." Ava's mind raced. The wheat was designed for human consumption, fortified with nutrients colonists needed to survive on this alien world. But the base genetic structure was Earth standard, and dragons were carbon-based, oxygen-breathing creatures. The biochemistry might be compatible enough that it was a gamble that could cost her life. "Override authorization." She spoke into her wrist comm, Agricultural Director Ava Chun. "I'm approaching the creature." "Negative. Stand down immediately." She was already moving. Aiden cursed and ran alongside her toward the dome's emergency access panel. They had 5 minutes of oxygen in their suits, enough time to gather what they needed. Inside, Ava's hands flew across the harvesting controls. A mechanical arm swept through the nearest row, gathering armfuls of ripe grain. Aiden grabbed emergency rations from the storage locker, protein bars made from the wheat, compressed and enriched. "If this works," he said, stuffing supplies into a cargo net, "it'll be the craziest first contact story in human history. If it doesn't work, it'll be the shortest." They emerged from the dome, carrying 50 kilograms of food between them. The dragon's eyes tracked every movement, but it remained perfectly still. Ava could see the intelligence there, the calculation. This was no mindless beast. She walked forward slowly, arms extended, showing the grain. The dragon's nostrils flared, analyzing the scent. Then it did something that made Ava's breath catch in her throat. It bowed its head lower, exposing the vulnerable scales of its neck. A gesture of submission, of trust. "Sweet mercy," Aiden whispered beside her. They placed the food on the ground and backed away. The dragon waited until they were at a safe distance, then delicately, impossibly delicately for such a massive creature, gathered the grain in its clawed hands and carried it to its baby. Over the next hour, the colonists watched through telescopes and long-range cameras as the mother dragon coaxed her child to eat. The baby's movements grew stronger. Color returned to its scales, and then the mother turned back toward the human settlement. Ava tensed, but Aiden placed a steady hand on her shoulder. The dragon approached slowly, stopping 10 meters from where they stood outside the dome. It lowered something from its mouth, a cluster of crystalline stones that glittered with inner fire. Dragon stones, Aiden breathed. The survey team found deposits in the mountain caves. They're worth a fortune, rare earth elements we've been struggling to mine. But Ava saw something more valuable in that moment. She saw recognition in those ancient golden eyes. She saw gratitude. She saw the beginning of something unprecedented in human history. Not conquest, not colonization, but cooperation. The dragon spread its wings and launched skyward, its baby following on stronger wings. They circled once above the settlement, not a threat display, but something else. A promise, perhaps, an alliance. Command is going to lose their minds, Aiden said, a grin breaking across his face. Ava picked up one of the dragon stones, feeling its weight in her palm. Let them. We just proved something more important than any protocol or procedure. What's that? That humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our technology. She watched the dragons disappear into the mountain ranges, where perhaps other families struggled to survive in a changing world. It's our ability to see ourselves in someone else's eyes, even when those eyes belong to a dragon. It's choosing compassion when fear would be easier. That's what makes us human. That's what will let us survive out here among the stars. The settlement alarms finally fell silent. And in that quiet, Ava heard something new. The sound of a future where humans didn't just survive on alien worlds, they belonged.